Hi, I'm Rigger. This is Your Right, and today we're discussing some devastating developments of Distance. Before that though, be sure to like the video if you like it, share anything else you would like, let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, and subscribe if you want to see more. Okay, so what am I talking about? Well, I wanted to look at our story so far as a setup in Volume 9. Because now that we're in the situation we're in, let's talk about how we can utilize the separation of teams across dimensions, or at least the separation of our main team. We know each side will go through its own developments and journeys on their own, sure, but how can we really utilize this specific setup to affect the characters, the fact that there is separation being the development? See, a big part of storytelling is doing a reveal. There are countless ways to do a reveal, and a reveal can be pretty much anything, and how you execute the reveal really informs your audience and the characters. Say, for instance, if you think a character is dead, but right around the same time, a shadowy figure that you can't see their face shows up and starts giving orders to the bad guys. Guess what? It's probably the character that you just thought was dead. That's how that works, and that's not a very good reveal because you're expecting it. But also, it has to be someone you know because that's how a reveal works. It doesn't work if the subject is new. If what is under that shadowy person's mask is someone you've never met before with nothing interesting about them, it's just surprise, new face, for no reason. That's pointless. Who cares? So, while the teams are separated, we have some potential for developments and reveals in some pretty unique ways. I want to be clear here before we start. I don't necessarily think any of these are going to happen, but they're cool to discuss, so let's discuss them. This is just a list of potential ideas I've had along those lines about utilizing the unique circumstance of separation to inform our story and progress things. So the first one is one that I really like, and they absolutely should not and will not do it. It's based around perhaps my favorite type of storytelling in a big story like this, when done correctly at least, and that's implied narrative. Seeing something happen, or something which is the result of things happening that you didn't see. And if those things you didn't see are horrific or worrying, suddenly you inject a whole lot of tension, anxiety, and panic into your story, and it can be great. And this one is fun because it's only really possible in RWBY because of the specific rules we've had set up along the way. The first reveal that would hit you like a ton of bricks without saying anything is this. Yang gets Raven's maiden powers. Out of nowhere. I've said it before and I'll say it again, the girls should not get these maiden powers ever unless it's an end of story thing. The main characters shouldn't get that powerful, even if they did it doesn't solve the problem of Salem, and it's a bigger statement that they don't have those crazy powers. And if one gets them, you're just setting up the dominoes for the rest to get them, and then we just have to wait for that to happen. So this is a not good idea for the story. I don't think they should do it, I don't think they're going to do it. But it really has this unique setup you could utilize if you wanted. Also, it would rob Raven of getting more, which she does sort of deserve as a character, and Yang deserves more with her relationship with Raven before the end. But just imagine it. If we were following the team as they traverse the island, they don't really know what they're looking for, they're confused, they're just surviving and trying to find a way out or find information. It's just an average time traveling. They're just walking along as the team is dealing with this and that. And we join them as they're, say, perhaps eating. They're just sitting around a little fire, eating some fruits, just chatting, nothing's happening. And then suddenly, Yang's aura flares up. Her eyes burst into flames, and she starts hovering in midair with energy around her. No warning, no nothing. She barely gets to react. Everyone just freaks out, looking at her in astonishment and confusion. What an awesome moment on its own, but also it tells you something huge has happened back home, but our characters have no way of knowing what it is or any way of getting there. However, because of the rules of the Maiden, you can already imply so much, you can speculate about so much, we automatically know what that means. But we don't get any details. Who killed Raven? How couldn't she get away? Who could possibly have done that? Is there an all-out war happening perhaps? What is happening? But you don't get to find out yet. Now, you feel even more panic to get back, because if someone managed to kill Raven, then who else is dead? What else is going on? You are left with that anxiety, that feeling of helplessness. The characters are left to speculate. It really makes feeling like you're trapped here on this island an actual harmful thing rather than a little vacation from reality. It's suddenly a big deal that you get back because things are definitely happening while you're gone. Even if logically the people on the island here were in no place to help Raven, they still might feel guilty about what happened because they're not even there. Who knows if they could have helped? Obviously you couldn't, but these things will go through your head as you're sitting there. Also that other people need to know. People need to know that Raven died and that Maiden Power's moved on, and people need to know that something might be coming. But we have no way to tell anybody. You suddenly feel like our main characters not being at home is doing harm, and people are failing to stop it. But there's also this idea of doubt you can put in characters' heads. Like, Yang thinking about her mother must have thought, perhaps, that Raven was trying to portal to her and was killed because the portal didn't work. Because, as far as Yang's concerned, that's the only reason Raven might be thinking of her, and it would make sense. She tries to portal to Yang, the portal does not work because they're trapped in an alternate dimension, and presumably her powers can't cross dimensions, and because the portal didn't open, she gets killed. Therefore, Yang also feels slightly responsible because of this, and it brings back up their relationship, that Yang would think of her mother, would only think of her as a means to escape, a means to save her own skin and gain her own ends. That's sad, but it's interesting. Boom. Big prompt for character development and exploration with the team, perhaps talking it over with RWBY and the others, her family situation that she doesn't really talk to people about much, and Weiss would have a little insight in having seen the interactions with Raven and Yang. Admittedly, it's slightly hampered by the Penny moment we got with Winter now, because we'd expect the same thing here. We'd want to see Yang and Raven's moment, and that takes away from the gut punch of it happening randomly. You'd want to see what they talked about. If they too get a moment, and if they don't, you'd have to confront why they don't, because, you know, it's sort of up in the air and people would want an explanation. I mean, you could have someone say later that knows about this stuff that the meeting didn't happen because the consciousness couldn't cross into this dimension, but the powers could. I don't know. You make it up. But the point is that it's just an interesting concept, and you could probably still get away with it. Now, of course, it would rob us of Team Stark stuff if you wanted Raven involved in that. It robs Raven and Yang of getting any more resolution if you cared about that. It robs us of a lot. So it's not the strongest idea narratively overall, but it's a great moment and a great example of what the kind of thing I'm talking about is. What I'm doing in terms of thinking about using the separation to tell a story and what you can do across the divide. The next logical version of this is something we've discussed before at length, so I'm not going to go over it too much here. It's basically just a footnote, which is of course returning to a very different world. The divide creates separation, so when we return, everything's different, like Vacuo is destroyed, the world has changed, time is different, characters or people are older, people you knew were alive are dead, etc, etc, missing limbs, injured. Horrors that we've discussed before in the time skip video, so I'll link that here, check that one out if you haven't, but I'm not going to repeat myself here. The next horrific one is finding friends. This again applies to the team on the island, because what if again they're walking through the jungle, just trying to get somewhere, just trying to figure out what's going on, and they walk into a clearing and there's Crow. Crow. Why in the world would Crow be here? First thought, an illusion. Someone or something is messing with them. No. A shapeshifter? No, not that either. And you quiz him, and it's Crow. And you've come to realize it's 'cause he's dead. Again, all the issues that go with the Raven reveal here, and Crow has more to do, I just picked a random character, but make it any character and it works. They walk through and they find Robin, just standing there, or Ty, or Willow, or, if you want to be absolutely cruel, they find Whitley. Whitley, or whoever, is here, and they have no idea why. And of course that person would latch onto the group, sticking with them, because they don't understand either. But that's how you do the reveal that this is the afterlife. Someone who should be alive is here, and then you backtrack and try and figure out why. A lot of people would jump on that and say, well, it should be Pyro, because you know she's dead. Imagine that moment, and that's sort of sweet with Jean. But no, for this reveal it absolutely shouldn't be, because then you immediately know. You see Pyro, you know it's the afterlife. If it's someone we know is dead, that takes away the punch. If it's someone you think is alive, you're going to assume trickery. Why wouldn't you? Why would Whitley be here? It's someone messing with your head, it's magic, it's a shapeshifter, it's a vision, it's something. And once you exhaust those options, the horrible reality sinks in. There's that slow, sickening realization in the pits of their stomachs as they work out why they're there. You can sixth sense it, and they don't know why they're there. That's probably the best idea. They don't remember they're dead. They just came here. The last thing they remember is just a mundane thing they were doing, and they all have to put the realization together and work it out. That's also a great setup if it was Crow or Ty, both parental figures for the girls. Because you could do this and not have the reveal that they're dead yet. You just perhaps assume it or aren't sure, but whoever it is would travel alongside with the team, and they would fight along their side and fight to get their way out, only to be cut off at the end. They can't leave. Though this especially hits hard for someone like Whitley. appropriately. It's how you get away in the show with absolutely just killing a kid without on-screen killing a kid. Imagine after everything, his redemption, his patching up relations with his family, being set up on a new trajectory and possibly a bright future with his family name and everything we want for him and everything that would almost make sense for him, we take it away. We cut off that bright future, and Weiss finds him lost in the jungle. Eventually, they realize it is him and he's dead, and they have to process that, and more than that, he has to process that. Imagine Weiss having to leave him behind when they go, after she made sure to come back and save him. Use a callback to the line as she walks through the portal out. The last thing she says, "I'll never forget about you." So much grief and sadness. And also, it again informs that something horrible has happened back home. Whitley should be fine. He was in the group of refugees. He was with Winter. They were near safety. What went wrong? And you don't get to know. It tells you have to get back because clearly something horrible is happening. And perhaps as a nice thing when you die, you don't remember dying so you don't have to live forever with that in your mind. That would make sense as a nice thing you would do for a person. But in this case, it hurts because they don't know the situation. The person who's dead can't tell them what's going on. They can't tell you what to expect. Then, Whitley's spirit can also face the horror of being left behind and being left alone. But tell them that they have to go back. He also says they have to go because he doesn't know if his mother's okay, he doesn't know if Winter's okay, if Klein's okay, or anyone else, and they're the people that need to go help if they can. So I will go through being left behind here despite the fact I wish I could come, because you guys need to go save people because we have no idea what's happened to anyone else. And until they do get back, the characters knowing that their friends and loved ones are potentially dying every second while they're trapped here and can't do anything about it is going to play havoc on their minds and add so much more tension into the story. There's more options here, of course. Have it be Gira, have it be Sun. These would really hurt, but they'd also be so effective. But only do one. Just one character. Your explanation however you want, that spirits go to different places or different places around the island, or it's like, an infinite realm because it's magic, but it doesn't work if you do it twice, and it doesn't work if you do two people at the same time, because it makes the problem solving too easy, it also makes it too easy to accept because a group of people died, and it cuts off a lot of that one-on-one heart-to-heart thing that you really get when it's just one person who means a lot, and it bloats the cast, which you don't need to do. But overall, it's a really effective idea. The next on the list is the other version of this, which is that one of the main team is dead. However, this is also one we've already covered. I'm not going over it because I already did that at length. So please check out this video because I think it's quite good. The next one on the list is basically revealing the truth. So what that means is that something totally changes the game for the heroes and totally changes the story, but only our team know about it. Basically, the way you do this is perhaps they run across the gods, which is actually quite likely to happen. It could be another magic being too, but the gods would be easiest and we know who they are. And basically, they reveal more of the story to them. Basically, we get like a Lost Fable Part 2, or they expand on it more, or whatever, and it totally changes the circumstances, changes our understanding, meaning the team has to get back and tell everyone the new information because something is wrong. Some of their understanding is wrong, or what's going to happen is wrong. Or perhaps you don't want to tell the others the new info you do have because it's awful and you have to decide to lie or not. See, my pitch for that version instead would be that the gods intend for Salem to win now and aren't interested in helping the team stop her. Whether this is because they changed their mind about the deal with Oz, basically they've forgotten about Remnant like their new projects and don't really care, or simply that they will honor their agreement but basically hope Salem wins because it'd be easier for them if they wiped everything out, but they will honor the deal they made. Basically, whichever route you do along those lines, it's made to demoralize the team even more, so that when they finally do return to their friends and loved ones who are still fighting the good fight, the team is instead defeatist. Everyone is of course happy to see them, everyone of course is getting back into battle and planning ahead. And the team that was on the island have to harbor this secret about knowing that it's all going to end, that it's all for nothing, that even the gods want this to happen this way. And they have to decide, do they tell the others? Because if they do, it's going to ruin everything. It could completely demoralize all of them. Salem may be near undefeatable, but hearing that literally the gods don't see them winning or have no intention of them winning, then that crushes everyone. And do they want it that way? But do they also want to keep fighting what even God says is a losing battle? You could take other routes to get there, but this is something that could really change RWBY especially, who in the story is the embodiment, the spark of hope. What happens when the spark of hope learns a crushing truth from literally gods? To have the most powerful being in existence tell you there is no hope. It's about as crushing as the thing could possibly happen, and you sit that on RWBY and the team's shoulders, and then they return to their now completely seemingly impossible task ahead, which of course somehow they will eventually do, but it's a pretty interesting story. Another version of this is that the new info could be basically that Jin lied in accordance with some rules set up. Oz seems to confirm what we saw, but there were parts being told that Oz wasn't in, things he couldn't know, perhaps things between Salem and the gods. And those things could have been obfuscated by the gods because they didn't want people to know that information. So if you were to ask Jin about that question, they basically imposed on Jin that you have to tell this slightly differently for whatever reason. They think it would influence mankind the wrong way, etc., etc., to know about these things. And at this juncture, whoever they're talking to, one of the gods or both, are happy to tell them because they don't see them getting out of this place. Perhaps they talk to one god and then the other god gives them a way to get out, or they just find their own way out. But either way, the gods are happy to tell them the truth, assuming they won't make it back to tell the others, and basically they clarify the lost fable and change things, change their understanding, and it recontextualizes what happens, and now the team want to go back and tell Oz and tell everyone the real truth, whatever that may be. My third pitch though on that is perhaps the kicker, which is they find out something else from the gods to do with specifically Salem. Perhaps that, in their cruelty, they are aware of what Salem is doing, they are still watching her. And if Salem wins and gathers all the relics, and perhaps has the plan that if they destroy everything she'll be included along with it, or she just wants to destroy the world to get back at them, whatever her plan specifically is, they will not lift the curse from her. They're aware that she might win, but if she were to do that, they will do something else, which is they will wipe humanity from the face of the earth and start the cycle over again for the third incarnation of the world, and keep her trapped there. Now, this is pretty brilliant, because if they know this and go back, how do you convince Salem that this is the truth? How do they even talk to her? How do they possibly orchestrate a situation where they can get in range to talk to Salem, even if it was over a seer, whatever? How do they arrange a meeting to talk directly to Salem to convince her that they met the actual gods, talked with them, and they said this and made it back? As far as Salem is concerned, even if they went to another realm, and even if everything they're saying is true, the part about the bit that the gods said to them could be a complete lie. Why would it be a lie? Because it would fit perfectly with what the heroes want her to do, which is stop. How do you solve this issue? How do you start this conversation? It's such a great conundrum. Trying to in fact help the villain by telling them the truth about their situation to save them causing all this destruction for no reason. But it also sounds exactly like you're lying to try and save your own asses. So how do you possibly make this work? By the way, I have to say my favorite answer to that question of what you would do in that situation to try and convince Salem is that Jean sneakily snapped a photo of the gods on his scroll, so at least they have proof that they met them. I know that's kinda dumb, but it's such a simple and Jean sort of solution that might actually help, because only Jean is a goofy enough character to pull off a joke where when they meet the gods, he sneaks a photo of them and it's played like a joke where they like say, Jean, what are you doing? And he like fumbles and puts his phone away. And perhaps the gods don't see it, or perhaps the gods don't care because they don't figure they're getting out. But then, like a season later, when they try and convince Salem of this story, it comes back, this joke that people might have even hated at the time, and it works into the story where they can convince that they met the gods because he has a photo of them. That's really interesting and simple and kinda great, and I kinda love it. Obviously, the step past that would be like the secret voice recording cliche thing you've seen from all the movies, but that's a bit much, and to know he had to record them would be a bit much, but just a little photo is pretty interesting. But also, thwarting the gods using some human-built technology to defeat the magical being's plan, there's just some lovely irony to it. Though, there's all these other questions, right? Would his phone still work? Because dust stops functioning when it's off Remnant, this is definitely not Remnant, and his phone definitely runs on dust. Though this is a magical place, so perhaps the dust does work. Or maybe his phone has a dust-charged battery that holds a charge, so even though the dust in it doesn't work, the battery still has a charge for a small amount of time. So many questions, but that aside, it is fun to think about. But yeah, super interesting concept, and even if you do convince Salem that it's true, then what now? Because she still might just be mad and want to destroy everything because she can, or in rage. She still hates Oz too. She might just continue the way she was. Or you might try and come up with a different plan. Or do we suddenly shift this story into possibly working with Salem on a plan to beat the gods? But then that would require getting the relics together, and then do you trust her when you're getting the other relics out of the vault because it is what she wanted, and where's the twists and where's the backstabbing, and we have people like Cinder around? There's so many questions. It's very interesting. The secondary option to all of that is revealing personal truths, meaning that it's not the world changing, but it's the characters changing. Imagine, for instance, we touch on the long-forgotten element of Jean's family. Jean is broken down after what happened with Penny, of course he is. What happened with his sword, too, Jean is at a very low point. And rather than bring up Pyrrha and Pyrrha's spirit, say Jean instead meets his ancestors, who we've never seen. Perhaps even his great-great-grandfather that carried that sword into the war. It could be then that this person picks Jean up, that they themselves were also bumbling and weak at a time, and to start out they were very much like Jean and they went on their own journey, and Jean can do it too. That's great. Or you spin it horribly, and you could go the other way, that your family name is built on lives. Your great-great-grandfather was a horrible person who did horrible things, a person you should not try and live up to, a terrible person, and not the legacy you want. Those things you wanted to live up to, that you lied about to get into Beacon to fulfill, were all by horrible people, and you have to reassess your own journey now. But perhaps you do want to go on it to build those things for real, to go on that journey and build your name on some truth, and try and make up for what your family has done. Now, right here is where a lot of people would point to that banner with Salem that's sort of like Jean's family crest, and people think somehow it transcended thousands of years and the entire rebirth of humanity to become his family's emblem, however millennia later. I find that pretty ridiculous. I wouldn't make that connection, but you can if you want to, I guess. But you don't need to do that. You can simply just tear down the foundation of what Jean wants to be. Now, he does say that his father and his grandfather were heroes too, and it's unlikely they're all bad people and you probably can't deal with them, but the great-great-grandfather, that past ancestor, you really could. Oh, and while I'm here, having Jean's father killed to show up is also a way you could deal with that story element and keep moving the story forward overall. Otherwise, we're probably never going to see them anyway, so you could use them like this. It works for other characters too. Again, the dead talking to them, be they recently dead or the long dead, is something you can do to start setting them on personal journeys while they're here. And then that separation plays in because they're different people when they get back. Now though, we should look at the potential horrors of separation and what could happen for those back on Remnant. However though, I'm less concerned with the main character parts of it, the Rans and the Noras and Oscars, because we can sort of guess what those might be, and we've also talked about them before, but let's look at some of the other wider characters. We've also covered Crow before, so see this video because that whole video is about that. But one I have talked about a few times but would like to address now on a different angle is indeed Raven. There is a reason she's in the thumbnail. I've talked about her feeling the connection to Yang vanish or discover that it's gone. She could portal to Ty and they could talk it over. She could portal to Crow and they could have it out. In fact, she could portal to Ty and then grab him and go through a portal to Crow and they could all have it out. We talked about this a little bit before. But something else that might be interesting to touch on is Raven considering the fact that Yang is dead, or as far as she knows. This is the part where lots say she wouldn't care, etc. But that's not really true. We see Raven being confronted with her own shortcomings, her emotions spilling over, and running, leaving Yang with a burden and knowing she now has a target on her back from Salem who terrifies Raven. Raven, for all of her posturing, is not heartless so much as she is conflicted and scared and stubborn. She still watched over Yang for years. Yeah, she only saved her once, she's Spider-Man now, everyone gets one. But even if you don't like her, you could do a lot cutting back to her during this time and getting some time with Raven as this happens. To find she's miserable and guilty and wallowing and depressed in private, of course. She still has to be publicly strong for the tribe, but she has those feelings, and that's just for letting Yang go. That's just what she's been feeling since she left with the lamp, knowing she was going to be hunted for it. But then also, if she get the message about Atlas, which maybe she didn't or maybe she did, let's assume she did or someone in her gang did, and everyone knows now, the signal that went out over all of Remnant. And then after that, she gets the feeling of Yang's connection break. So as far as Raven is concerned, she hates herself for letting Yang run off with something that she knows the scariest thing in the world will be hunting, and then, quite a time later, a message goes out to all of Remnant that Atlas is about to fall, and Salem is on their doorstep, and the world knows about maidens and everything, and then, not long after that, she feels her portal, her connection, to Yang suddenly sever and disappear from reality. The only way that adds up is she's dead, and Salem did it. And since the only reason Salem was chasing them was Raven's fault, then it's suddenly on Raven. And at that point, no matter how much of a bitch you think she might be, or as strong as she thinks she is, there's always something very different about the idea of a loved one dying, and it actually happening. Once it's real, once it sinks in that this is reality now, that's when you could do a lot with Raven. Maybe she has nothing left to live for, abandons the tribe, not considering herself a good leader, or perhaps losing faith in even the value of life, and she could, well, YouTube censorship, she might consider taking herself out of the game. Imagine she appears in the afterlife and speaks to Yang, only to reveal that she did that, and if she hadn't made that decision, she could have seen Yang when they return, but now that will never happen and she has to stay in the afterlife. And you could tie this back into our earlier idea of Yang getting the powers, because Raven, having given up on life and about to do what she does, she doesn't care where the powers go anymore. She doesn't care if they go to somewhere random. And because of thinking she was guilty for it, her thoughts would be on Yang. That would be what's in her mind before she, And then her powers would go to Yang. So we get that moment with Yang with no explanation. And then later down the road, they find the spirit of Raven. And Raven tells them that she did it to herself. And then she has to learn that she didn't have to and that they are planning to come back. That all could go together, and that's pretty crazy. And then you don't rob Yang and Raven of their moment to talk, because now in the afterlife they do get to have that talk. Now it's all settled and done. It's over for Raven. They have it out and they talk it all out and they get all the answers that they want to know. And Raven can travel with them and help them to get out. One last thing she can actually do for her daughter. Again, this would be very dark, but it's a very compelling way to go about it. Again, Yang shouldn't get those powers, but if you were gonna do it, that's hardcore. It's tragic, it's complicated, it's real. It means they don't have to hear people ask about Raven anymore, the RT people. Just pretty hefty, but I think in a good way. And you don't have to show her do the act, of course. You can get her right up to the edge of it, heavily imply that that might be what's going to happen, and then cut, and we see her on the other side. Or she can think about it in memory up to that point, so you don't reveal it early and get the gut punch still of Yang just getting the powers. But you don't have to actually show her do the act. Of course not, and you can cut around it and be more tasteful. In fact, you don't even have to go that far. Just show Raven flying off and upset, and then later down the line, a few episodes later, you see Yang get the powers. You imply that she got killed because she went off recklessly and did something stupid, but then as they talk, we get another moment, like in the vault, where realization hits Yang about what her mother did, and that changes the relationship between them obviously in that moment. That's really interesting. But also, not doing that, a different path, is that she could become equally reckless and decide to join the fight. Again, not caring if she lives or dies anymore, so why not go down fighting Salem since she felt she failed her daughter? That could be another way to do it and get her involved. Her values about keeping herself alive no matter what have been challenged and changed by the revelations of losing someone that she was never willing to admit she felt so strongly about until they were gone. But the point is, that's how you can use the horror of separation for the people back on Remnant too. These emotions playing on them, especially these side characters we don't use much, and just simply Raven is the easiest. Say if you wanted it to be Ilya, that would also be tragic, Ilya's spirit appearing. But trying to justify why Ilya knew that Blake died is a lot harder because she doesn't have magic connections, whereas Raven does. Also, if you wanted to go through something perhaps with Ty, you could apply this to him, as Raven could tell him what happened, and he could have joined the fight when we get back, or B, that's why they run into Ty in the afterlife too, on the other side. When he finds out that seemingly not just one, but both of his daughters are now gone. Raven can even confirm that for him. She comes to tell him about the connection with Yang, and when he questions about RWBY, she can use her portal to Crow, and if he's anywhere near Vacuo, she can go there and find out that they're all gone, return to Ty and tell him, and then, yeah. And at that point, despite his indictment of Crow's attitude, it would be he who falls into sadness he can't recover from, having in this battle lost Summer, Yang, and RWBY, and then he might be the one to, give up and exit the game. Really heavy stuff, I know, and I apologize for that, but it could facilitate the two girls getting an excuse to spend some time on screen with Ty before all this story is over, even if it is in the afterlife for a while, since they seem to have no interest in using him for anything else. But also, another take on this is that either one or both of them go and confront Oz about this, see, moving away from the death and sadness, getting the parents to really grill him about how things have gone. Crow too, even. that Raven collects Ty and Crow, and rather than wallowing about their losses, they get mad and they go and confront Oscar/Oz to talk to him. And that is how you get a Team Stark flashback. Then Raven, Crow, Ty, and Oz together talk about what's happened so far and how they got here and why things are the way they are. Perfect for a flashback episode. And that doesn't involve any horrible death and sadness, except for whatever happened to Summer. And then all can be well as we get some answers as the audience that we've been asking for a long time, while the girls are working on their travel plans to get back home. If one of them doesn't try clicking their heels together 3 times, by the way, I'm going to be so disappointed. I wish I could say I have something to end this on a happy note, but I kinda don't. It's just a collection of really heavy ideas about how we can put the unique circumstances to good use. But chin up. This is fiction and speculation about fiction on top of that, so no need to let it get you down. Chances are that nothing like this happens at all, and everything will be fine. Just enjoy your extended beach episode. And until next time, my name is Rigger. Hope you have a wonderful day. I hope I did alright.